It's all going to shit, innit? That was a nervous laugh, by the way. That was, well, basically reports have come out this morning, which is almost like clockwork whenever United are shit in the bed or have had a midweek evening defeat, and it's that dressing room leaks, or the dressing room is seemingly unhappy with of each other, with Ten Hag, with results, which is normal, but I think I've gotten to the stage now when I've seen these dressing room leak reports that I think there should be like names put to these players that are doing it.
And I think you've got a situation here where there seems to be one particular individual that's making these reports every single time.
Can we have comments, please? Thank you. Go on.
They are seen as a bit of a toxic sort of journalist anyway. Never written anything fucking positive in their life.
Yep.
Very divisive in how they do this, and it's like clockwork. Every single time there's a bad result, it's players have speculated whether the manager has followed orders to play someone to increase the value. Players have concluded as long as someone was the manager, but things are going to be bad and we won't succeed, and teammates are imploring other players to do this, and although the club are yet to inform this manager of a dismissal, they believe that this match has already been his last. United have started succession planning to replace certain manager. This is when Brendan Rodgers was linked.
Yes.
And then obviously we have the one that's just recently come out, which is some players feel Ten Hag tends to protect his perceived favourites in the squad while rounding on others. Start naming names, you shitbag. Start naming names.
Name the leaks. Name who the people are, because I think obviously it's...
I think it's guesswork. I think he's guessing. Look, United are in poor form. When you're in poor form, would you expect the dressing room to be going fucking bowling on a Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, exactly.
No, they're going to be fucking... These are professionals. And whether or not people... Like, I'm going to say they're professionals at the top of their game. And I guarantee loads of the comments were like, we're not at the fucking top of the game, are they? They still are.
Yes.
They're still in the absolute 1% of football. Regardless of whether or not you think they deserve to be or how they're playing this week. They're still the top 1% of football. These are still the elite of football right now. And to get to that point, even the worst player in the United squad is better than anybody you ever met, right? That's a fact. So these players will not be happy. Now, there's a massive difference between, like, we've said it, am I happy with how United are performing? No. Doesn't mean I'm going to go start support fucking Scunthorpe. Do you know what I mean? You can be unhappy and get on with it. And I expect all of these players are unhappy, but getting on with it. And there's a massive difference with that. These reports, like TalkSport had 22 fucking Manchester United related posts yesterday. Where was the Arsenal posts? They've just been smacked up as well. Where's that post? Are they not further along in their development under this saviour?
You know there's not a club that's more scrutinised than Manchester United Football Club. It's probably the biggest followed, sells the most stories, gets the most clicks. It's not the easiest environment to play in generally, but as you've said, I think it's very easy for a journalist to come out and the following day and say the dressing room was unhappy with the manager, etc., kind of piling on with what's going wrong. Because I don't think it takes a genius to think that's true anyway. Like you've said, people may argue that the players don't care as much as the fans do, and the fact that they're losing every week and the shit that they're basing on.
There'll be a spectrum of that.
There'll be a spectrum. Players will be pissed.
There'll be some players that give a fuck more than any fan, and there'll be some players that never
There's
give
a spectrum. You don't get to that level without caring about winning or losing. So as much as they're well paid and they're pampered, they will be asked. Obviously, as much as they don't show it. I think, and even if they're not asked in terms of for United, these players have all got huge fucking egos anyway. So they don't want to be, I don't think they're happy to be part of a losing culture where they're going out and getting smacked up every week or being smacked up every midweek and then looking shit and then having players, having fans and journalists and people that are talking, that are doing sports commentary, talking about how poor they've been and how poor they're playing. No player wants that for themselves. So if they're not happy necessarily, if they're not that bothered as fans are in terms about results, they'll definitely be asked about their reputation and how they're being looked at with their performances and that. So I think it's very easy to do an article today after we lose or a manager's under pressure, as seemingly he does very cyclically all the time, and just to say, oh, players are unhappy with Ten Hag. It's all kicking off. They think there's favouritism between players. We already came on XG Files the other day and said I reckon that's the case in most dressing rooms where people are unhappy and have a little bit of a barney if they're not playing ahead of this player and that player. That is just generally the sporting culture of teams. I do agree that United probably is a very, very toxic dressing room environment now, but I think there's been a massive pile-on.
There's always a pile-on.
Yeah. And it's like, I think...
Cold hard facts, right? Look at the way Newcastle and United are being treated at the moment. Aren't Newcastle 2 points clear of us in the league?
Yeah.
Not 15.
Yeah, but
just have to check.
Nah. But they had a dodgy start to the season. But I think they played like City, Arsenal, Liverpool.
But do you know what I mean?
To start the season, so I think they've. But to be fair, I don't want to be comparing myself to Newcastle though.
No, but like the way things are sort of reported. There's a whole different vibe about what's going on with how these are reported. And ultimately, like, I will look at the fact their second team looked better coached than we did last night. It's damning. And there's no hiding that. There's no getting away from that.
Some coaching here.
It's damning. He's doing all right.
Yeah.
But it's everything. Everything is everything. You know, Ajax lost the CEO. I thought it was easy to win with Ajax. Everybody was telling me it was easy to win with Ajax, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
When we got Ten Hag, everyone was like, who gives a fuck? It's easy to win with Ajax. Does it look easy now?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Van der Sar's gone. Overmars has gone. I misspoke yesterday. I thought Overmars would start at work. He's at Antwerp, so congratulations to him on getting a new job. But they've lost their whole backroom staff. It matters. Now, as I said, I think it was either this morning or last night, the director of football and what's going on at the training ground and this, that and the other does not affect the macro of a one-game result. These people got to look internally and see that. But the bigger picture, the results over the course of a season, the performances over the course of a season, that can be affected by, the mood of the club can be affected by who's the CEO, who's the manager. Does this club feel like a club with ambition? Does this club feel like it's trying to hit the next level? Or does it feel like it's just repainting everything the same colour?
It is. I think I spoke about this the other day with Joe. If you look at all the top clubs currently and the clubs that are working the best in terms of the way they're operating, the transfer window and they're performing on the pitch, there's a synergy between the manager, director of football and owner. And they're all like buying into the same product. It seems to be some sort of connectivity there, which is never the case at United, by the way. Obviously, you've got Arsenal, we've got Arteta and Edu, and then you've got City, you've got Pep and Cheeky, is that how you say his name? Tixi, yeah, whatever his name is. And then you've got Brighton, you've got De Zerbi and Dan Ashworth, or is Dan Ashworth? No, Dan Ashworth's at Newcastle now. They've taken him from Brighton, but you've got Eddie Howe and Dan Ashworth. You've got Ange and the new guy that they've got in there, because I know that they lost the person in the summer that operated the football inside for them in Tottenham. And then obviously when Ten Hag was at Ajax, you had him, Overmars, Van der Sar. That kind of spine is very, very important, and I don't think you can even call it a spine at Manchester United. I think the people that perform in these jobs at United, I think it's too big for them. And then you've got this mess, because I know that Ten Hag seems to be he looks a little bit desperate right about now. You can tell that he's actually
good. Fucking aged,
yeah. You can tell he's a good coach, but you can tell he's been thrown into an environment where you've got to basically defeat all odds to have success. Because no one can tell me that David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Ten Hag, they can't all be shit managers.
Ralph
Rangnick. They can't. he was a bit shit. But
you
can't
know
tell
what he was here to do. He came in and told us all.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only reason that he ended up getting the bullet was because the club didn't like the truth, and that's, you know, the truth is the truth. If you hide from the truth, then you end up in the situations that we're in now. Like, there might have been a more diplomatic way that he could have come out and said what he wanted to say, but I think he got there, he peeked behind the curtain and went, yo, there's no here, you know.
Yep.
There's nothing here at all. And that's when he said the club needs open heart surgery. And ultimately, the club didn't like that. He was being lined up to stick around. And maybe that would have been a good thing for him to stick around.
It's like giving him the boot as soon as he come in, though. He didn't want to work. He had a bit of a complex where he didn't want to...
But maybe that's where someone at the club has to go, well, actually, this guy's identified all of these issues. He's been here 6 months. That gives Ten Hag a head start. Let him work with him.
It's true, but don't you think there's a culture being bred now at United, though, where if you're a player and you go into there with the whole carousel of managers, that you're thinking, as soon as shit hits the fan, I can down tool because I'm going to outlive the manager anyway.
Yeah, that's shit. And that's why I think you always needed to get in proper football people. John Murtagh got the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what he's about. Doesn't look like he's done anything. The recruitment alone tells you that Ten Hag is scrolling through his WhatsApps on the shitter trying to find players. Like, the recruitment strategy at United, I'm sure it's more invested than who does Ten Hag know. But from the outside, it literally looks like who does Ten Hag know, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't look...
It does.
Like, where's the little gems that we're picking up? They're not really there, are they? So
not at all. And I saw someone tweet this saying that, like, Tommy Asu's not exactly an elite footballer, but I think United's strategy in the transfer window needs to be like, instead of going for one, spending 80 million on Casemiro, you can get 3 Tommy Asu level footballers. I think United need to elevate the floor in a transfer window before they look to elevate the ceiling.
That's the literal method to improve a football team is not to extend at the top, it's to improve the floor.
The floor, yeah.
Because you lose football matches on mistakes.
Or the
not necessarily on the magic that you're able to do at the other end. That doesn't necessarily win you games as opposed to stopping you losing games. And you have to always stop losing games first. There's a comment here, which I absolutely don't agree with, but I absolutely have to read it out. And it's from Non1. And he says, the problem is Ten Hag can't offload the shit players he doesn't want from the beginning. No one can, because they're overpriced shit. No one wants to buy them. Actually, wasn't the one I wanted to read out, but it works, and I'll read that one off. And I don't know, is it a problem that Ten Hag can't offload these or is it the club? Because I'm going to be honest, if I'm managing Manchester United, I don't want to be phoning around people asking them if they need a new centre-half. And have I got the bargain for you? Like, I would rather be on a coaching pitch and actually putting this team through its paces so they can get better. There was a point I wanted to make, and I've definitely forgot it. It was talking about Ajax, the structure. That was a really important point. Player accountability. What was it?
We can't just sit here and wait till you figure it out.
No, we can't. This is horrendous content.
See what I mean? So, but...
Oh, that was it.
Go on.
Yeah, the likes of TalkSport and the shit they get to write. Someone mentioned what happens when sometimes it's the players' wives that are leaking stuff. Everyone's seen the Colleen Rooney documentary by now. I haven't seen it myself, but I know it's been widely viewed by probably a lot of people in our audience. Yes, you do get players' wives leaking things and this, that and the other. There's a story of Sir Alex Ferguson grabbed Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, a couple of players, and this is in the mid to late 90s. United are successful at this time. And Fergie kept seeing his arse that the team news was getting into the papers. So Fergie just went carte blanche, because he loved banning a journalist anyway. Now that doesn't happen at Old Trafford at the moment, and I think it should. Sam Luckhurst, next time he comes in, go, who was the person that said, who's the person that's telling you there's unrest in the dressing room? Can't tell you that. Cool. Tell me in 3 months then when you come back. TalkSport, 22 posts about us yesterday. Well, there'll be no more fucking posts about us. Off your fucking pot. We'll see you in 3 months when you come back. Start actually having a bit of bollocks about yous. And start, if it's unjustified, call it out. Who wrote the Adidas story about United's kit being a bit too fucking tight? Right?
Fuck me.
How many other teams wear Adidas kits? 1 or 2, right? Fuck you, out you go, right? See you in 3 months when you decide to write something positive again. Now, someone said, what do you do when the wives are leaking the information? Well, this is what Sir Alex Ferguson did. He got those players, Bruce and Pallister for definite. It might have been Sharp, it might have been Ince. I can't remember exactly who it was. And he went, right, you 4 live in Alderley Edge. This journalist lives in Alderley Edge.
Do you know?
If these fucking team news keep getting to that journalist, you're all getting fucking sold.
Do you know how bad it is that, like, obviously a chief football writer for a particular football club has this kind of weird complex of thriving off negativity and the shit that goes wrong within Manchester United. Like, that also, because of our media's become so powerful as well, it kind of feeds into the negative culture that's surrounding it. You can't tell me that they don't see the news reports and players don't see this. I know people say that players try and blank out. Like, definitely don't. But I honestly think that might need to happen so that things change, because I think there's too many journalists that do feed into the negativity, and also the fact that the clicks and the kind of notoriety it can get because Manchester United's so big, and all it's doing is piling on another problem onto the 158 other problems that's going on at Manchester United. And I think the whole toxicity around the club might actually be shooting up the list as being one of the worst parts, because you go onto the pitch now, and I've heard Old Trafford was fairly quiet yesterday. It was very, very flat. And obviously the players are playing shite as well, and then you've got this whole media circus.
It's
after
a two-way street.
It's like
atmosphere in stadiums is a two-way street. It's on there's a responsibility on the fans to play our part, and there's a responsibility on the players to ham the fans up and give us something to cheer about. It's an agreement. It's not all on the fans, and it's not all on the players, and it's neither in isolation. It's an agreement between two. You have to have both, and it was lacking from both yesterday, admittedly.
Nah, yeah, it did, and it's a concern, because you would like to see a reaction, but people talk momentum's important in sport, but momentum going the other way can be extremely detrimental, and that's what's happening now. And then you've got, I don't know if there is some truth to these players being showing their discontent or whatever. I guess that can be true. Obviously, the Varane was by an insider account that has broken quite a lot of stories and got a lot of stuff right. Obviously, a couple of things have been wrong in the past. Sometimes I usually think if there's smoke, there's a little bit of fire, to be honest with you. And
that's that 1 + 1 = 2 thinking is where a lot of these stories fire.
I know. I'm not necessarily 100% believing it, but I think it's people have kind of thought it's built up a little bit of traction because Varane doesn't have the reputation of being a divisive player. He's generally quite he's a bit of a leader and he's quite calm, but also people are kind of connecting it to him being dropped for Johnny Evans to play against Manchester City, and thinking, as you said, does 1 + 1 = 2, or does it actually equal 3? But if he's unhappy about that would make sense. I think it'd be a concern if Varane was sitting there and thinking, I've been benched for the derby for Johnny Evans, I'm going to be happy about it. But obviously the report about not coming into training on Tuesday because of it isn't, do you know what I mean? If that's true, you can't support that.
Problematic. That is extremely problematic. But you know, these reports come out with a regularity like clockwork. It's every defeat. It's not just like they all started coming out now.
Yeah.
You know, these are constant. And I don't necessarily think United deal with the media the best. Like they have a very much head in the sand approach to this. I've mentioned this loads of times before, but in case anyone's never seen me mention it, there's a journalist that we're quite close with that said, if you write an article about Manchester City, that press office will ring you up and go line by line through your article with you and say to you, I will do it. They go line by line through the article with you and ask you to justify every single statement you make. Now, they're not asking you to stop writing, but you are going to get pretty bored of having to justify every single thing that you write when that comes up. I've got loads of super chats.
He's got it in front of him, Jaden.
Through some of those.
Go on normal live chat, please.
Ayub says, just to focus on recruitment, while Newcastle sound Bruno Gamage, Botman and Isak, we signed Casemiro, Ronaldo and Varane. Run like Disneyland. Get a few more of these because I've got a few more of these. Arush, I've done that one. Arush says, why did Sir Alex Ferguson finish 12th after the second? I think it was 11th after the second, but it might have been 12th. Did anyone ask him? Nope.
Yeah.
Ant says, we can't identify when our players' cost versus effectiveness has become negative. We give huge contracts, which limits the players and the club's options. The contract absolutely limits what we can do with players, because we can't just sit someone out and be like, figure that out then. But you're right, and I thought we were coming out of that sort of period as well. And that's going to be a hangover of the Woodward era for a long time, I think. Abhinav says, Ollie said the club put in a cap of the number of players to be bought in, which is rubbish. Who puts this restriction? I mean, we'll find every club actually would probably put in a restriction. Let's be real here. Every single manager, especially the likes of Pep and Klopp, because you look at the sheer number of players they've signed. If they could sign 30 players in a window, they would. They absolutely would. Every single manager would buy a whole new squad every single window. So that's why you have to work with a director of football that can have a sensible argument with you and come out with a way to improve the squad without killing the club in the future. Because every manager wants to be, needs to be, and should be extremely selfish to get them into the right position that they can do. But someone has to look out for the club.
Yeah, but it is true.
Because the manager's shelf life is so short.
I think there's a limit though. I think there has to be in terms of managerial power in the transfer market. You obviously don't want to get players that the manager doesn't want, but there's got to be kind of a more methodical approach there, because I think if you get too many of a specific manager's type of player or transfers, when they are eventually sacked or they leave the club or it doesn't work out, then you've got all these players that were the manager's buyers previously, and then the new manager might need a whole new batch of players as well. And one thing I did agree, I don't always agree with him, but I agree with some of the stuff he does say in terms of Jamie Carragher. He's agreed what he said about United's transfer market in terms of the way that we don't think forward, in terms of we buy players for a need in one window, and then the following window we're replacing that need again because of the fact that we're buying them either too old or...
The one thing that we've done recently that's anti that is Højlund, but otherwise that's so accurate.
Remember when we was on XG Files thinking we need a right winger? Since then, United bought Sancho, and then because he shit the bed, a year later or a year or two later, we then buy Anthony thinking he's the answer, and now he's not the answer again, and now we're still sitting here going into the window next season saying we need another right winger again.
It's almost 200 million on right wingers. Now, if you'd have put 200 million into the academy, into facilities, into having a structure behind the scenes, can you imagine what you could have done?
Or a few less players that are more, not as high profile, but just more...
You could have took a couple of 40, 50 million pound gambles.
Because for example, look at Jeremy Doku. He's gone to City and he's had a really, really good start, and he wasn't exactly an unknown player. He's been one of the better dribbling wingers in Europe for however long. And what did City get him for? 40 million? Half as much as Sancho and Andy.
The problem is if you believe in the disclosed prices, and some people don't. Owen Thompson says, Glazers have never had any success here. When they came in, Fergie already got the team upcoming. Ronaldo, Rooney, Rio, Van der Sar, Prime, Giggs, Scholes, etc. Few people needed here and there, but nothing big. Yeah, they've never overseen the sort of investment. Sir Alex Ferguson, from the day the Glazers came in to him going, I think spent a total in 8 years, net, I think, of 19 million. Now, that was largely because we sold Ronaldo for a hefty amount, but the season that Ronaldo goes, we was in a Champions League final and we've won the league, our third in a row. Ronaldo goes and we go, right, what would a big club do? A big club would bring Mike Clowen in on a free, Valencia in for 11 million or something, and Gabi Obertan. That's not what a big club does.
It's not.
Go look at what Real Madrid do.
No, it's not. But the thing with Real Madrid is when they spend as well, they'll spend on best players in their primes, but they also will buy they love the South American market, and they do go for the exciting young players.
Gamble.
They do go for a gamble or two. And they generally can work out in the future, whereas United never do that.
I'm just going to find some more of these super chats because there's quite a few. Zoa Teng says, when Ten Hag said he won't try and play the Ajax style, speaks volumes. Pep could go to Stoke and they will play Pep possession footy. Ten Hag, shocking. No, they won't.
Yeah, they don't.
They won't. Manchester City didn't play it, right? He had to bring in an entire new fucking squad. It was like, that keeper, gone. Those fullbacks, gone. And 55 new centre-halves. yes, some of the players that were there were able to adapt and start playing it. They'd already preemptively and supposedly sort of brought in the likes of Sterling and De Bruyne ahead of him coming in, knowing he was coming in.
Yeah.
That was a City team that had already won a couple of titles with some players, and there's a rumour that Pep had a hand in making sure they were signed because he'd already agreed to be going there. So when they brought in the likes of Kevin De Bruyne ahead of him coming in, it was kind of because he was coming in. So, if he could have done this, Kolarov would still be playing like fullback and that. You know what I mean? Like these are
he
the
did play
fucking...
Kolarov for a bit, but you could tell he weeded out players that didn't fit his system one by one.
Yeah.
And obviously was given the ability to do that. But
where did he come in his first season? 4th.
Yeah, but I don't know. Looking back, I can't really slight anything about Pep's tenure.
Can't. No, but in the hindsight, you can't. But he was gifted a team that had won titles. It was a team that had a fuckload spent on it. Then he got the...
So what's the point you're making, though? About
that he wouldn't just fucking walk in Stoke and turn Stoke into this City
definitely not.
Because that's what's being suggested.
No.
Seaman says, people that are Ten Hag out have yet to say a suitable replacement. Look, it's same like...
I've seen Xabi Alonso in it, but you know what you're going to say.
Flavour of the month.
Yeah, exactly.
It always is. It'd have been Graham Potter if it had been fucking 12 months ago.
What have you seen from United in the past few years to suggest that any manager can come in and have success under the current regime? The issue is, I think any manager, and to be fair, you can say that to an extent because at the end of the day, Ten Hag has still shown like tactical and philosophical problems and like some of his in-game management. But I think a lot of that has been bred from him becoming so desperate. I feel like he's lacking a bit of confidence in some of his beliefs. He thinks his players can't do it. And I look at a manager now that looks a little bit lost for ideas, and it's showing. Because one thing that managers are important for, obviously they pick the team, they motivate, etc. But they always need to kind of have that kind of presence of confidence and like authority and whatever, so that players can almost follow suit. Do you know what I mean? They kind of buy into that. And I think because he looks the way he does and he looks like he's not very sure about things at the moment, I think it's leaking out onto the players anyway. And
put it on a totally different level, but it shows how important it is. Do you lot know how I want to play football at Paddock?
Yeah.
Is that important for you lot?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. And you're saying they don't think the players now Ten Hag wants to play?
No, that wasn't the point I was trying to make. I was talking about like, I don't think you can play well unless you know what the manager wants you to play.
You don't want to
like.
be confused, yeah.
And I don't think you can... I think it's important. Like, if you question me on something, like you're entitled, and many of the players do, question why we're going to do something. I have to be resolute in my belief of this is how we're going to play football. And I can be wrong, but I have to believe it. I have to go, no, this is how we're going to do it. This is the way we do it. This is how we play out. This is how we attack the final third.
Yeah.
And if I'm not like that, if every single time a player comes up to you and goes, I think we should do it like this, and I go, yeah, do it like that. Well, what the fuck do we play like by weekend? After 5 days of training, like, what the fuck does our match system look like? The manager's job is to go, and he's allowed to be wrong, because your opinion on how you want to play, there are an unlimited number of ways to shape a football team, how you defend attacking, how you defend, or how you shape up when you've got the ball. There are a million ways that you can do that. Everything Pep's doing won't be perfectly right. But he believes in it to the point where he's had the buy-in, he's had the time, and he's also got the ability to impart that information into the team and maintain the quality that they put into it. At the moment, you would have to say Eddie Howe's done a similar thing. He has his ideas of how he wants to play. He knows how to impart that information to the players, that they're efficiently carrying out more or less what he's asking them to do. And he will believe in what he does. He's not changing how he wants to play constantly. And I don't think being adaptable is necessarily a bad thing. When you're not the top dog, I think you do have to have a plan B in your pocket. But you have to have a resolute plan A that you're able and comfortable to stick to. The problem that I see with United at the moment is when Ten Hag came, we all assumed he's coming in to do what we saw at Ajax. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, can anyone find the actual answers for this for me? Didn't he say he was going to try and play the same way? I know how I want to play, and this, and we'll put it in.
But now it's come out that he said that he doesn't think the team
we will
can
never play like this.
Yeah.
But did he actually come out and say? I feel like, and I could just be my feeling, but when he came in and did he not come out and say, we will play that football at Ajax, or we will play that's my brand of football, and we will play it. Did I imagine that, or did he come out and say that? Because I feel like he said that, or at least
he probably would have, and then he's gone. He's had a year there, and he's thought the players can't play a certain way, etc. Someone said up there, maybe the players just aren't up to it. They might not be good enough for the level, which can be in some ways true. But the thing that irks me is if that you look at all the players individually, a lot of the players that are underperforming as well at United, they've all had success at some points in their career elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, why do players come to United and regress? And that is almost every single player. There's not a player in the last 10 years that's come to Manchester United and improved as a player. There's not a player in the last 10 years that's come to Manchester United and had the better part of their career there. You can't name one player in the past 10 years.
Bruno.
And then you got to think that's why it is. Bruno's probably the only one, I'd say. But other than that, other than Bruno, who's comfortably the best side, and even now you can see people slightly turning on him.
It's not.
But
in the last 10 years, nah. I mean, there's an argument for Luke Shaw, but he was bought as a teenager. But it hasn't been consistent with Luke Shaw. Wan-Bissaka came in under immense thingies. He fell off. He's building it back up, but he's certainly not playing currently like a £50 million right back still. Yeah. Harry Maguire had a good season, fell off. He's had a couple of good games. Not an £80 million centre half still. I think that's fair. What are the signings? Everyone else is either too early to be here. Certainly not. I don't think Casemiro's looking at his time. I don't think he's going to be on the Manchester United speaking circuit when he finishes. Yeah, he's going to align himself as a Real Madrid legend, surely. Yeah, exactly. And people have actually said that Bruno statistically has regressed in the last few seasons. Which, do you know what I mean? Is that an exchange rate because of the league, or is that he's regressed in terms of what he was outputting at United? But then also you've got to think about the environment that he's playing in. It's just there's so many factors which is annoying, and I've seen half the arguments that I see between United fans are about like what issues were like less worse than. I know it sounds like a double negative, not as bad as the other issue basically. Like everything is just purely negative, and then people are having to argue about what's the least negative. Do you know what I mean? Christian says, when was the last time United even thrashed a team? Well, Ollie had 10 5-0s or more. He's the only one that's had that. None of the other managers have had a 5-0 post-Fergie. NT says it's an exchange rate because we're shy. No, there's an exchange rate roughly from leagues. Some players book that trend. Like Bundesliga to the Premier League usually is a big drop-off. Haaland says no. Well, I don't. He's completely put that trend. Ant says Cass, Anthony, Varane, 186 mil. Kane, Kim Min-jae, Paulinho, Gakpo was 205, all flying. Who got the better deal for difference of 19 mil? I mean, you can do that all the time. Like, we got no credit for getting Christian Eriksen on a free. That was a great bit of signing. Has it had longevity? Arguably not, but he was excellent last year. Like, and you get no credit for that. You get literally no credit at all, do you? No, United don't get any credit for anything. But I don't know, because the question should be now in his body is like, where do we go from here though? Because if it turns out that there is some legitimacy towards the Varane and the Ten Hag issue, and then people are going to attribute that to the fact that he's had problems with Ronaldo and he's had problems with Sancho, and then people say is his man management coming to question? But then is it players come to United and they build up this kind of bravado and confidence where they don't like being told, or kind of like have this kind of authoritarian approach that they don't like as well? Is it that? Do you know what I mean? But I just think United are losing. United are not playing well. It's toxic and it's negative, and then everyone involved in the club is looking for someone else to blame. Is what I think's happening. And ultimately, it starts at the top. And like I said, each individual result, like the Manchester City game was, Joel Glazer wasn't at the back post not picking up a man, right? That's factual. And sometimes opposition fans have somewhat of a point when they bring that up. But the broad picture, the broad strokes are, when the management above changes and gets onto a structure that's actually going to take the club forward and not neglect us, that is when Manchester United will truly change. And there might be spikes of success in negativity with, you get lucky with a signing, you get lucky with a manager. But on a long enough scale, you are not going to succeed competing against people who are demanding excellence, like the Liverpool owners, City owners, Newcastle owners, even Spurs. They're all saying, can we be the best team in the world?
Yeah.
And we're saying, can we get in the top 4?
When
they miss their target, they're coming 2nd, 3rd and 4th. When we miss our target, we're coming 5th, 6th and 7th.
That's our level now. Someone up there said Spurs were begging for new owners last season or whatever. Look at them now. But to be fair, for all Daniel Levy's faults, he has made concerted efforts. Obviously, it's a new stadium, but he's made efforts to appoint decent director of football. He's found a decent up and coming young manager, and also, he's made a little bit more of an effort than we've seen from the Glazers.
Right? Yeah. Well, for starters,
you know what I mean?
They plunged themselves into debt to build probably the best stadium in the country.
Yeah.
We plunged ourselves in the same level of debt for a new name on the top of the heady paper. That was it. They got a new stadium at least, and at least then that stadium will generate money. They have the NFL coming there. Like that stadium actually brings revenue. Our owners literally take fucking money out of us. It was the rawest of raw deals. Now, Spurs could be...
They haven't taken dividends this year though, or did they?
Yeah.
They haven't.
Taking loans to pay bills and taking fucking dividends out. Mental. So with Spurs, they've had a fantastic start to the season, but they actually still haven't won anything. So let's not, they wanted new owners last year. Okay, they might want new owners next year.
Plus,
Postecoglou started fantastic.
Plus, Spurs and United are there's still difference in expectation there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disrespecting Spurs, but there is levels to this in terms of club size and expectation as well. So
I've been out here with a super chat says, could just be me, but I think there was a frustration when Ten Hag said we won't play the Ajax style, like where's the sports science department that I wanted type. Do you know what? I absolutely agree, and I think there was frustration in Ten Hag the way he said it, but I think there's a lot of frustration from fans because I think it was it almost sounded like him giving up. Now, I believe last night, I haven't seen this, but I believe last night it was a press conference where he said he still backed himself and this, that and the other, and he still had the confidence he could do whatever. That's important. The problem is, you don't know if that's the truth.
Yep. I think what United need to do, or Ten Hag, or the people that are higher up and that are meant to be doing their jobs well at United, is they need to put the whole squad on a piece of paper, and they need to pick out who they feel like they can build a club around, they can build on with, and what players they actually need to get rid of. That open heart surgery effect, but it can start incrementally, because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking the culture and what you've seen in the last 10 years suggests that we've signed Højlund, who to me has an incredibly high ceiling and has a world-class ceiling and has all the tools to become a great player. Looks like he could be, like many others, be ruined or wasted at Manchester United. And then you've got Kobe Mainoo, who has all the talent in the world as an 18-year-old, and he's not been rushed back in. You've got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Could United also possibly ruin his world-class ceiling as well? But these are the players that United need to kind of focus on making sure they mould well so that we're better off in the future. Do you know what I mean? Because I think United of old will still go into the transfer market and try and get an old striker when they replace Martial, and then you bring all these players into a culture where they can't develop and improve, because you've seen that's been the case for the past 10 years. And then it's that same cycle again, because we've also seen a lot of players leave United and be better, and you've seen a lot of players look better before they arrived at United as well. So then what does that tell us about us?
Well, it's not working. It's clearly not working. And Ralph wasn't given a job because he told the truth. And there was some talk, whether this is real or not. There was some talk. Obviously, everything's
talking, bro.
But when there's when there's the noise coming out that the Glazers saw their ass. I mean, we don't know this, but this was said. When this noise comes out that the Glazers weren't happy that Sheikh Jassim suggested he was going to get United back to our best.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slight.
And they was kind of like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, someone needs to sit them down and reality check them.
I don't know if they were asked about that. I can't picture him being asked about that.
I think it sounds legit, but it's starting to stack up that could have been the case. Again, speculation. I don't know if that's true.
Drummer 3354 says, stop blaming the owners.
Stop fucking talking nonsense, you absolute widge. How about that? Ronan says, thoughts on Varane? Leisha came in and made more of an impact. Yeah, because he was next to Varane. If it had come the other way around, it might have looked the other way around. They're good together. They should play together. Weekly. Anyway, cheers for everyone who's joined us, as always. Do you know what? It was sponsored this and we just got too carried away with it. Check this out. Right, lads, gather round. You have heard me banging on about Manscaped for ages, mainly discussing the virtues of a well-trimmed ball bag. But today we're going to move a little bit north and something that you might have actually seen, my beard. Manscaped isn't just a master of below-the-belt grooming. They have conquered beard territory too. And I know this is groundbreaking news. Let's delve into the details. Now, we are all well acquainted with Manscaped's brilliance for the downstairs department. They've been many a saviour of many a date night and many a ball bag. And you know the Lawnmower 4.0 by now. I'm not going to tell you about any of the features for it because if you don't know them, then you're never going to know them, right? It's a certified hero for the nether regions. But they're here for the beards now as well, and they've got the beard hedger. It is a cordless miracle worker that is both tough and gentle. It takes down facial forests in a single stroke. It's got 20 different lengths of settings. It gives you the power to totally customize your beard without cluttering up the bathroom and having a million different attachments. Now, they've also got another member of the band, and it's the Handyman. That is a dual-sided foil razor that has got your back, whether it's your face, whether you're going clean-shaven or just tidying up a little bit around the neck. It is the epitome of comfort in the shaving world, and it's got... Righty then, go check that out. The link for that is in the description. They're big supporters of the channel, and if you're looking for, you're starting getting in the mix. We are in November now. You're starting doing your Christmas shopping, or at least Janine is. So if you're doing that, then go and check them out because they're supporting us. But cheers to Ronnie, cheers to you guys, cheers to Manscaped. See you in the next. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms.